Welcome to Enterprise Radio, the signature show of the Enterprise Podcast Network, featuring some of the most prominent business professionals in the world today. And now your host, Eric Dye.
Once again, this is Eric Dye, and welcome to Enterprise Radio, a part of Aptean, the Enterprise Podcast Network. Joining us today, we have Piet Buyck, a global technology executive at Logility, an Aptean company, and author of the new book, AI Compass for SC Leaders. And Mr. Buyck, we thank you for joining us here today.
No, I'm very happy to be here, Eric, and thanks for inviting me.
Well, you're certainly more than welcome and really appreciate your time in joining us here today. So tell me, for starters, I'd be curious, what inspired you to write the AI Compass for Supply Chain Leaders, and why is now the right moment for this book?
Okay, thanks for that question. So I call it a compass because a compass helps you to navigate by giving you direction, not just prescribing every detailed step on a map. And that's a very good metaphor for the impact of AI on supply chain. And because planning, and especially in supply chain, has been a constant flow of decision with competing interests, sales versus production, stability versus exception, growth versus margin, and the roles around it have all been implicit expectations that are embedded in a process that exists more than 35 years. And these technology principles behind it haven't changed. And because of that, traditional way of working, organization had very much difficulty to operate at its full potential. Often jump to binary views, either fully automate the current function or keep it very analog and human. And therefore, I framed it as a compass because we're really navigating towards a new world, and people are generally okay with change as long as they don't have the ones to be changed. So decisions are always a combination of people, process, and technology, and now AI has the potential to be all three at once. So, and for the first time, it can reveal insight behind the numbers and also help to execute tasks. So it's a real transformation, and it's very similar, almost like when we went from horses to cars, but that transition didn't work really until roads, gas stations, driver licenses, and traffic rules existed. And before that, people gave always the example, oh, my car got stuck in the mud and my horse can pass by. But AI is a little bit in a similar stage at this moment. But when we look at the compass, it allows us to look broader and further. And as each organization has its own DNA and its own environment where it can perform at its best, there is always this gap between where it is and where it could be. And that's where AI can help you understand what are the drivers behind your decision and what information can we make transparent for everybody so that as an organization you can grow. So the framework is really about trying to help leaders to clarify what they want to achieve, the objectives and the outcomes, and then working backwards and to see how AI can help.
These details certainly lead off well per this conversation and per your expertise in writing the book AI Compass for Supply Chain Leaders. So the book also talks about AI as more than just automation. It's about creating a more connected, collaborative way to plan. So how is this transforming the relationship between people, data, and decision making?
Okay, thanks, for clarifying, because it's a little bit of a clarification of the first question. So the challenge in current ways of planning, because of the technology that we had, has always been understanding what's behind the number. And all the meetings and actions were mostly driven, how can I understand what somebody else, in the organization means with the number he brings in a report, he brings to a meeting. And until now, it were only humans that could provide context. And when information, however, is passed on orally or in writing, it takes an enormous amount of discipline to prevent it from diverging as it moves through the organization. But with AI, now this information can be digitized. Number and insights become interchangeable, and they are instantly available when a change occurs, and it can be connected to the right planning level. So that creates a connected environment where these large language models, like we are used with ChatGPT, can summarize the information and prepare it for decision making. So a number is not just a number, but it's a number with an insight behind it. And agentic AI, or the AI agents, which are all over the news right now, can continuously monitor those changes, assemble the information around it, and move it along in the process so that the three components, monitoring change, initiating the right action, and summarizing the information, work together and are at the fingertips of humans to make the decision they need to make. And all this information is now visible and connected, and it can help to automate some of the routine decision, but it also can help to prepare organizations and knowledge workers better in complex decision to have the information at hand, what they need to make those decisions.
Piet, certainly appreciate your thoughts and feedback on that. Most helpful. Now, also, supply chains became headline news during the pandemic, and this year's new tariffs are again creating a ripple effect across many industries. So how can AI help companies navigate disruptions like these and prevent the kinds of shortages and delays that impact everyday people? Get into some details on that.
Thanks for the question, Eric, again, because like we in the last question, we talked about numbers and the insight behind it. But basically, supply chains are complex living networks full of constraints, but also defined by processes and tasks. And these constraints are not random, but they're set up to support a strategy. And for instance, a certain warehouse capacity allows a certain amount of goods. So tariffs in their most abstract form, as well as major event, effectively going to redefine some of the flows in those networks. It's going to be more expensive to source from there. It's going to be more expensive to store there, or even cheaper, or more supported. So with AI and connected data, it becomes possible now to monitor immediately when a tariff is applied or when a change is applied or event is happened, how this whole network can realign at its best to perform the challenges that are at hand. So AI basically helps to link that digital information directly to the numbers and then immediately translate changes in this global environment into insights on which people can react faster and make much better decisions. So definitely AI can be a support in this more complex environment.
Really appreciate your insights and information shared here today. We're speaking with Piet Buyck, a global technology executive at Logility, an Aptean company, and author of the new book, AI Compass for SC Leaders. And he's joined us here today on Enterprise Radio, a part of EPN, the Enterprise Podcast Network. So tell me also, Piet, how does AI, particularly generative AI, make planning more collaborative and explainable across different departments?
Jobs will be redefined and humans and machines should collaborate. And I know it most sounds a little bit like a kindergarten slogan, play nicely together, even with kids from another neighborhood, but it's true. Humans are imperfect and we're slow. We can be political, tribal. Machines are imperfect too. They can be unethical, they can hallucinate, they need a high amount of data. So the first step is really to understand what value you actually want to achieve and arm everybody with those capability. And then look at your organization as your partner. You map out the old ways and the new possibilities, and then you decide which tasks should be supported by AI and which should remain fully human. And a helpful frame is there, the balance between what should be accurate, transparent, and fair. And if you don't understand the causality behind something, then don't automate it. So the big shift is moving from siloed KPIs to more horizontal, where you have end-to-end ownership of the total process. So it means recognizing capability bias, understanding why decisions are made the way they are, and retaining processes. So and redefining roles. And right now, so people can be trained and move away from the traditional way they have been working and work more on a collaborative way.
Good stuff. Great feedback there. And as we conclude here today, for leaders just beginning their AI journey, what's the smartest first step they should take?
Eric, I think thanks for the question. I think really is get a feel for AI yourself. Research yourself or get yourself educated on some basic possibilities of child-generating programs or agents, like Lovable is such an example, but build some agents yourself. It's a lot easier than you think and a lot different than you think. So with that knowledge, then go in your organization and focus on the value you want to achieve. Without value, it will be useless. And a useless thought experiment. Define a value stream like order to cash, but make sure it has value. Make it multi-departmental also, because connecting sales and finance to planning, for instance, is a cool place to start. The core of the value of AI is that it will help break silos because it makes information understandable by the different departments. And departments mostly themselves are very good, but it's mostly at the connection of different departments that the difficulty gets. Don't make it too big. Don't make it too small. If it's too small, you won't have the business benefit. If it's too big, it will take too long. Analyze the process, to redefine a new process, but make sure the process owner has his eye on the value. Make sure your people are trained and follow some basic rules. If your people don't really understand how a certain area, a complexity exists, then don't automate it with AI, because that's not going to help either. But if it's a problem that you can automate, then please use AI, so that your people can focus on more high level problems. The big advice is don't compete with AI. Never use it for the sake of using, but make it your ally for problems that create value.
The perfect place to conclude here today, and really do appreciate the information and advice for those leaders and how they should begin their AI journey, and the smartest first step to take on that. Tell us, where can listeners get more information on your firm, Logility, and also pick up the book AI Compass for Supply Chain Leaders?
So where they can find it at Amazon. Of course, you can just order it, or they can go to a website at Logility, and there you can also order.
Easy enough. And of course, listeners, you can access all links within the show notes of this broadcast per the conversation here today. Again, it is Logility.com. Mr. Buyck, all the best, and thanks so much for joining us here today on Enterprise Radio.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric, and I was very happy to be here.
And you're more than welcome. Certainly was a pleasure to have had you as well. Again, we've been speaking with Piet Buyck, coming to us from Belgium today, a global technology executive at Logility, an Aptean company, and author of the new book, AI Compass for Supply Chain Leaders. And for all the details, visit Logility.com. And this is Eric Dye, and you've been listening to Enterprise Radio, a part of EPN, the Enterprise Podcast Network. Tune into our live location as we are streaming live 24/7 around the world at epodcastnetwork.com/live. You can also find our live stream on iTunes Radio and TuneIn Radio, as well as the TuneIn Radio app for your listening convenience. And as always, we thank you for your support and for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to Enterprise Radio. To subscribe to more of our programming, visit epodcastnetwork.com. This is the ePodcast Network.